Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I bought that magnet over Christmas. It was at Barnes & Noble, and we were shopping for my son. He got a gift card for Christmas, and I don't like to buy magnets because I have one of those refrigerators that you can't put a magnet on. But I was so enamored with it, I bought it, and it found a way to stay in my kitchen. So life begins at the end of your comfort zone, and this is a quote by Neil Donald Walsh. And I stand here now at the edge of my comfort zone. Not quite so close to the edge as I was when I joined you last September. Still, I see it. It's right here. I simultaneously feel great joy and great dread at the thought of being behind the pulpit. My heart pounds, and I feel like I'm at the Grand Canyon. Have you been to the Grand Canyon? Then you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you have to go. Field trip. It's so vast that the human mind, upon seeing it, struggles to fathom its breadth and its depth. A few years ago, I had the chance to see it, and I love to hike. On this first visit, my husband and I decided to take the bus from the park offices, the 7 miles west, which is the furthest you could go on the road, and hike the canyon trail back. Even before we began our hike, a thunderstorm appeared ominously out of the west. Rain and lightning had just built up, and we started running for the only building we could find, which was an outhouse. It was one of those turquoise satellite outhouses, and I think they're really not that stable. They're on pallets, I think. Thunder and lightning were echoing off the canyon walls, as you might imagine, and lightning felt like it was striking all around us. We wondered if this was indeed the right place to seek shelter. What if the lightning struck the outhouse? We nervously laughed at the idea of being found dead in a crapper. We were holed up in that little outhouse for about 15 or 20 minutes before it cleared. After that, it was beautiful because the rain had washed the dust off the rock, bringing out some of the glorious colors of reds and orange and even some blues in the canyon. It all popped out with the sunshine after the storm. Earlier, while we were at the visitor center, I had read about the people who die at the Grand Canyon. You might say I had a morbid curiosity. Apparently, people regularly die at the Grand Canyon, some of them from lightning strikes, but most of them apparently because they fall in. Looking into the abyss now, I could see how that could happen. My heart skipped a beat, but just one. We hiked maybe a mile along the trail that just seemed too close to the edge for my comfort. My husband, Mark, was in front of me, and he was excited, forging ahead with gusto. I just kept watching the trail where we were walking get closer and closer to the edge. I was not taking in the view. The trail was getting narrower too, I swear, and Mark didn't seem to notice at all. My palms were sweating. I started to wheeze a little with anxiety-induced asthma. At one point, I kid you not, there appeared to be only 6 inches between the trail and the rim that was on our left, okay? I swear. And the trail was getting narrower too. I'm not that narrow. On the right was a rock ledge just large enough to sit and take in the view. My husband sat down with glee on his face. Grinning, he turned to me, expecting to see my face reflect his expression. It did not. I know I looked panicked. The blood was drained from my face. We were now so far out of my comfort zone, and I just knew, if I stayed 1 minute more, I was going to fall into the canyon to my death. Then I did what scared people do. I got stupid. I stood up and stepped around my husband. That meant part of me was actually going around over the canyon, I swear. I stepped around my husband, went down the trail, and crawled up away from the rim. 25 people have fallen to their deaths between 1925 and 2005, you know. I was sure that I was about to be one of them. When I was 20 feet from the rim, I found the official trail. The safe trail. My breathing slowed and I relaxed. In my mind, it had been a close call. I felt frighteningly vulnerable. For my husband, the trail had not once posed a threat. Our bodies will produce the same physiological response to a real physical threat like falling, literally, into the abyss, and an emotional threat, like the fear of failure experienced by an intern minister giving her first sermons. Or insert your fear here. Where is your comfort zone? Perhaps it would be better named the discomfort zone. Mine is moving. Some people call these moving edges growing edges. I'm leaning into this new pulpit abyss, this vulnerability, and I'm grateful to have the choice. I'm grateful to be here. I do this willingly. I recognize we don't often have the choice. Life does not equally distribute its anguish. Life is not fair. It just isn't. Sometimes vulnerability sucker punches us, doesn't it? Cancer is a sucker punch. Nobody deserves it. Sandwiched between our birth and our death, we will hurt. We will be afraid. Fear and knowledge of our vulnerabilities can keep us safe from physical dangers, but they can also keep us from living full, rich lives that we are entitled to. If it hasn't happened already, I promise you that your heart will break. I promise that there will be times when you'll be pretty sure that being on the edge of what holds meaning in your life will not feel worth taking the risk. Can I not say this to a new parent? Can I not hold a new baby and whisper into her perfect ear, I'm sorry, but you will in your lifetime feel pain? Can I not say this to newlyweds? Your marriage will sometimes be hard. It will be painful, and you may wonder why you took the risk. I promise you will encounter pain. This reality would be too much for me to bear, except for the fact that I know that great things can come of the struggle. The vulnerability, the risk of pain. Life indeed begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Must we really be willing and open to our vulnerability? No. Life will offer you a sucker punch or two of required vulnerability, but to grow, to live a richer, more fulfilling life, I'm afraid my answer is, of course, yes. Survive it, live through it, lean into it, endure difficulties with courageous vulnerability, and a richer, more authentic self emerges. Still, we contort, we deflect, we avoid putting ourselves in vulnerable situations. I have an assortment of tools for avoiding vulnerability and all the gifts it has to offer. Susan Piver of the Open Heart Project, she's a Buddhist practitioner, offers that if we are afraid of being vulnerable, if we deep down feel unworthy of the growth and beauty it brings, we risk turning to one of three natural human outs: numbing, certainty, and grasping. I've done all three. Numbing. Through drugs or alcohol or other compulsive behavior, we prevent ourselves from feeling the pain of our vulnerability. In this numb state, we don't have to see the abyss. Unfortunately, when we avoid feeling pain, we lose the capacity to feel great joy. Perhaps numbing isn't your thing. Do you choose certainty? There's no vulnerability in certainty. Certain that our own perspective is the only right one, we become evangelical. The world becomes one-dimensional. In this stuck place, there's no room for doubt. It's incredibly rigid. We deny that we might have varied responses to the canyon. Mine, for example, was fear, while Mark's was one of awe. Another option we may choose to avoid being vulnerable is grasping. We grasp at the elusive thing we're sure will make us happy. If only I were thin enough. If only I were rich enough. If only I had the right friends, enough love, the right clothes or house. Grasping is an effort to fill the void. We deny the power of the abyss by trying to fill it up with stuff, but it's never enough. When we feel worthy, we can allow ourselves to be present and vulnerable. This is courageous vulnerability, not sucker punch vulnerability. The truth is, we are all afraid. We are all just learning who we can become over and over again, reconfigured by life's experiences. You are not who you were 10 years ago. None of us is. And we want to be known for who we really are, as our authentic selves. How terrifying our real selves might not be worthy. No wonder we numb, we cling, we grasp, we wait in the outhouse. This love-giving, life-enriching vulnerability takes courage. Only a coward walks through the world invulnerable. And there is no love without vulnerability. As a hospital chaplain this summer, I was asked to visit a patient that was in all likelihood dying. The nurses told me that they felt this man could use a visit. They told me that he was alone, really ill, and agitated. He had no family or friends with him, and his condition left him unable to talk. And I failed him because I didn't have the courage to lean in to where he was. I stayed for a short time, offered a really generic prayer, and left. I offered him no real comfort because my discomfort was so great. I had been too close to the edge, his ultimate vulnerability, right? I couldn't get past that it exposed my own tender realities. I returned the following day feeling bad because it continues to be all about me. And I was hoping to provide some more meaningful or comforting words, and he was gone. And the self-talk in my head was something like this: God, I suck at this. That was not helpful. So I tried to tell myself that that he wasn't really able to hear me, or that I didn't have something to offer, and it was a really feeble excuse. Have you had those moments where you know you have failed? Where you let your fear keep you from being the person you want to be? Later, when I was still trying to get this right, I was told that another patient had had no visitors and that he was ornery. Ornery. I like that word. I like ornery. I get ornery. I was also told that he didn't speak much English. Well, I don't speak much Spanish. So this could be a short conversation, right? I'm in. Once again, I had to find the courageous vulnerability to go into a room, not invited by the patient, mind you, cold calling chaplaincy. 10 years ago, I might have thrown someone like me out of the hospital room, had I been the patient. I sat down and introduced myself. Hi, my name is Linda. I'm the hospital chaplain. He looks at me and says, who? I tried to explain until he says, pastor? Yes, pastor. So we talk, not about spiritual things, but about Mexico, his family, my few Spanish words, cerveza and baño, beer and bathroom. This made us both laugh a little. The visit didn't feel deep or particularly connected. Eventually, a doctor interrupted us. I left the room. Chaplains, like doctors, chart their visits. While I was charting outside his room, the doctor reemerged. He came straight over to me to say with enthusiasm, I don't know what you said to him, but that's the happiest I've seen him in the week he's been here. Wow, I didn't do that much at all, but I guess I did. The patient was worthy of some human companionship, and I was worthy enough to try again. A little instance of courageous vulnerability, and we were both better for it. I'm so glad I did. So now I want to whisper into the baby's ear, be a heart warrior. Be a heart warrior is what I want to say to the newlyweds and the young adult going off to college. May you be blessed with courageous vulnerability. When a heart shows courage in the face of emotional risk over and over again, it not only develops resilience, it grows in its ability to express compassion. Authentic people have compassion. This is what the world needs. These rewards are sacred truths. They are holy realities. We can't take in the view, my friends, unless we're willing to go to the canyon. So, take heart. You are worthy. I've not met anyone here even remotely unworthy. Have you? Realize how much of your circumstance is random, and that by no inherent greater worthiness or unworthiness, you have found yourself financially secure or insecure, loved or lonely, confident or confused. Again, life isn't fair. But what is yours is the opportunity to fill these days between your birth and your death with courageous vulnerability, so that you and those you surround yourself with may find the world a better place for your having been in it. I invite you onto this edge with my fear, with your fear, together, each worthy, hopeful, and vulnerable, because here the view is breathtaking. May it be so.